Welcome, Chosen One. Power isn't always loud. It's the quiet intensity that disrupts everything without a single word. Imagine stepping into a room, staying silent, yet the air thickens like a storm on the horizon. People shift, glance, and feel uneasy, but you haven't even spoken. That's power. You are a living contradiction, calm yet dangerous, humble but unstoppable. You don't need to roar like a lion when your presence hits harder than thunder. Your silence commands attention. Your energy disturbs the comfortable. You are the question they can't answer, and the truth they can't deny. Here's the harsh reality. People fear what they can't predict, control, or understand. And you, Chosen One, are the unknown wrapped in confidence. They'll try to label you, box you in, and water you down, but you slip through their fingers like smoke from a wildfire. They want to make you doubt yourself, inject fear where there is none. It's like trying to block the sun with their hands, pointless and desperate. They hope that if they shake your spirit, they can breathe easier. But let's be real. The real fear isn't yours, it's theirs. They're terrified of what you might become when you finally unleash what's inside. They see potential in you that they can't match, a light too bright to dim. Remember this, they wouldn't be working so hard to scare you if you weren't already a force they can't handle. You are the storm they hoped would never come. Chosen One, if you're ready, truly ready, to step into the power they fear, prove it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this message with someone who's ready to break free from the lies they've been fed. Comment 77 below if you're done shrinking, done hiding, and done letting fear run the show. Destiny isn't coming. It's already here, demanding you rise. They tried to scare you, but now it's your turn to be unforgettable. Let's begin. Number 1. Shattering their illusions. When you're a chosen one, you are the unexpected storm that topples their carefully constructed towers of control. They've spent years, maybe even lifetimes, building a world where they feel powerful, secure, and untouchable. They cling to their rules like a shipwrecked sailor clings to drifting wood, desperate and unwilling to let go. Then you show up. You don't just break the rules, you expose them for what they are. Fragile illusions built on fear and conformity. You're the earthquake that shatters the ground they thought was solid. You exist outside their systems, untamed and uninterested in seeking permission. You aren't playing the game, they are, and that terrifies them. Society thrives on order and agreement, on everyone nodding along to what's acceptable or normal. They expect submission, compliance, and silence. But you don't fit into any mold they've designed. You live by truth, not trends. You don't ask for acceptance, and that refusal makes you dangerous. Your presence alone is like fire in a forest of dry leaves. It doesn't just disrupt, it consumes. They fear what they can't control, and what they can't control, they try to destroy. It's not just your defiance, it's what you symbolize. You are living proof that their power is borrowed, their control conditional, and their systems breakable. Here's the truth they can't face. You reveal how powerless they truly are. Every time you rise, every time you succeed without bending to their expectations, you force them to confront the hollowness of their control. Their entire reality is built on others playing along. But you don't. You refuse. And that's the real reason they try to undermine you, discredit you, and instill doubt in your mind. It's not just you they fear. It's what you make them realize about themselves. You strip away their illusions, leaving nothing but their deepest insecurities exposed. They can't stop what you represent, because your power doesn't come from their systems. It comes from something far greater: your authenticity, your freedom, and your relentless truth. They tried to build walls, but you became the wind. They tried to trap you, but you became the fire. You don't play by their rules because you were born to rewrite them. And the most unsettling part for them: no matter what they do, you're still rising. Number 2. The mirror they fear. There's a force within you that speaks louder than any words ever could. It's not in your voice, your actions, or your arguments. It's in your very presence. You don't need to point fingers, call people out, or engage in their shallow games. Simply existing as your true self is enough to shatter their illusions. For those who thrive in denial or weave their lives around deception, being near you is like standing under a relentless spotlight. It's not harsh or blinding. It's steady and inescapable. Your energy doesn't scream, it whispers, but the truth it reveals is deafening. Even when you're quiet, even when you're simply minding your own business, you unsettle them. It's like being in the presence of a mirror that doesn't distort, one that reflects back everything they've tried to bury. Your authenticity highlights their masks, and the stark contrast leaves them exposed. They're not just uncomfortable, they're unnerved. What's more powerful than words? Perception. And your perception is razor sharp. You see through their bravado, their charm, their curated personas, peeling back the layers they've spent a lifetime perfecting. That kind of clarity is rare, and it's terrifying for people whose identity depends on pretense. Here's the twist. It's not about what you say or do. It's about what they feel in your presence. You are the silence they can't escape. Their insecurities, doubts, and hidden fears rise to the surface, not because you force them to, but because your energy demands truth. And the irony? They try to flip the script, making you out to be the problem. They want to shrink you, silence you, and dim your light because it exposes their shadows. But no matter how hard they try, you don't flinch. You don't play their games. This drives them into a deeper panic. Your calm is louder than their noise, your silence heavier than their accusations. It's not you who's afraid, it's them. They fear the raw honesty you embody, the way you force them to confront parts of themselves they've spent years avoiding. Think of yourself as a lighthouse. You don't chase the darkness. You simply stand tall, shining. The ships lost at sea may curse your light for revealing their precarious position, but the fault isn't the lights. It's their unwillingness to navigate the truth. And that's the essence of why they react the way they do. You aren't just scary. You're what they fear most, a reflection of their own unspoken truths. They want you to feel small because they feel exposed. They want you to crumble because their illusions are falling apart. But you won't, because you were never the one afraid. They are. Number 3. Breaking their blueprint. You defy their rules, and it drives them mad. They've spent their lives following an invisible script, a rigid set of expectations about success, behavior, relationships, even how to think. They live by a formula, believing that conformity equals security, power, and acceptance. But then you show up. You're the glitch in their system, the proof that their carefully constructed world isn't as absolute as they thought. You refuse to follow their playbook, yet somehow you thrive. That's a contradiction they can't process, like seeing fire burn without fuel. You shouldn't exist, but you do. They've built their reality on the belief that the only way to win is by following rules set by society, culture, or tradition. But you rewrite the terms. You ignore the limits, step outside their boundaries, and succeed on your terms, not theirs. It's like you're living proof that freedom and authenticity are stronger than conformity and control. Here's what really terrifies them. You don't need their approval. You live by your own code, and that independence shakes them to the core. They've convinced themselves that permission, acceptance, and validation are the keys to success. But you've built a life that laughs in the face of their expectations. You are the crack in the foundation of their beliefs. Every time they see you rise, unapologetic and untethered, it's like watching a house they spent years building begin to collapse. You didn't ask for their blueprint. You built your own, and now they can't stop staring at what they could have been if only they dared. But it's not just jealousy. It's existential fear. If you can succeed without following their rules, then what does that say about the sacrifices they've made to stay inside the lines? You are living proof that the path they devoted themselves to isn't the only way, and maybe never was. They can't admit that possibility because doing so would mean facing the truth. They've been trapped by their own fear of freedom. They've clung to a system that promised safety but delivered control. You, on the other hand, chose uncertainty and found power. That's why they react with hostility, judgment, or even attempts to undermine you. It's easier to attack you than to question themselves. They ridicule what they secretly admire because acknowledging your success means admitting their own limitations. But here's the thing. They can't break what they can't control. They can mock, reject, or try to shut you down, but it won't work. You've already escaped the mental prison they're still trapped in. You are freedom personified, a walking contradiction to everything they've been taught to believe. And that's what truly terrifies them. Not just who you are, but what you represent. The possibility that they could have chosen differently, but didn't. Number 4, the power they can't touch. People who live by manipulation survive on control like wolves survive on the hunt. They thrive by weaving fear, guilt, and subtle coercion into invisible chains, bending others to their will. It's not just what they do, it's who they are. Control is their lifeline, their weapon, their world. But then there's you. You don't flinch, you don't play along, you don't bow. And that terrifies them. They've spent years perfecting mind games, mastering manipulation like a dark art. They know how to trigger insecurities, twist words, and build traps that most people never see coming. But when they meet you, it all crumbles. Their tricks hit a wall. Their carefully crafted traps fall flat. You don't react how they expect. You see through the performance, unmoved by their attempts to twist reality. They can't play you because you refuse to play. And that, it drives them mad. They can't understand why you're different. To them, control is supposed to be universal. It works on everyone. But you speak a language they can't translate. Freedom. You don't respond to guilt trips. You don't shrink under disapproval. Their intimidation is just static noise in the background of your purpose. What truly scares them is the realization that their power isn't real. It only works on those who believe in it, on those who hand over control without question. But you're immune. You are their worst nightmare, a mind they can't twist and a soul they can't own. You represent something they will never have, true sovereignty. And that's the kind of power they'll never be able to steal, break, or manipulate. You are what they fear most. Untouchable. Number 5. The reflection. They can't escape. When you enter their world, you become a mirror they never asked for, a reflection they can't turn away from, no matter how much they try. You force them to see what they've spent years denying: their fears, insecurities, broken dreams, and untapped potential. And they hate it. You don't need to speak or call them out. Your very existence is the truth they can't ignore. You live authentically, unapologetically aligned with who you are, and that alone exposes the lies they tell themselves. They've built their lives around comfort and illusion, but when you show up, their facade shatters. Every time you choose freedom over fear, you expose the chains they willingly wear. Every time you trust your power, you remind them of the potential they abandoned. They could have lived the same truth, but they chose safety, conformity, and self-deception instead. It's easier for them to blame you than admit they've betrayed themselves. So they lash out, they criticize, gossip, and try to tear you down, not because of anything you've done, but because your light exposes their darkness. You are the truth they can't escape. Your authenticity highlights every compromise they've ever made. Your strength makes their weaknesses impossible to ignore. In a world where they've chosen masks, your realness feels like an attack. So they try to make you disappear through judgment, rejection, and intimidation. But here's what they can't grasp. The harder they try to silence your truth, the louder it becomes. Deep down, they know the problem isn't you. It's what they see in you. They aren't running from you. They're running from themselves. And that's a race they can't ever win until they face the reflection staring back at them. Number 6. The power of leaving. Walking away is your loudest statement. When conflict erupts, most people cling tighter, begging, explaining, arguing, desperate to fix what's falling apart. They fear being alone, fear losing someone, fear being forgotten. But not you. You don't engage in endless battles for validation. You don't beg to be understood or chase anyone unwilling to meet you halfway. When the energy shifts, when respect is gone, you leave. No warnings, no grand exits. Just silence and a door closing behind you. And that terrifies them. Your ability to walk away is a kind of power they've never encountered. They mistake it for coldness or indifference, but it's something far more dangerous: self-respect. You know your worth, and you refuse to let anyone manipulate or diminish it. You don't stay where you aren't honored. For people used to being chased or fought over, your departure is a brutal wake-up call. They built their importance on the belief that others would always fight to keep them close. But when you leave without looking back, it shatters their carefully constructed illusion of power. Suddenly, they're faced with a truth they can't avoid. They were never essential. Their approval, attention, or presence held no real influence over you. It only worked because they thought you needed them. But when you walk away, you take all their power with you. Your departure isn't just an action. It's a statement. I'm not afraid to lose you, because I'll never lose myself. They can't manipulate someone who refuses to stay trapped in their games. They can't intimidate someone who's willing to leave and mean it. For people who thrive on control, your independence isn't just unsettling, it's a nightmare. It forces them to face the one thing they never expected: their own irrelevance. Number 7. The presence they can't define or escape. There's something about you that makes people stop, stare, and question, even if they can't explain why. It's not just confidence or charm. It's deeper, older, timeless. You carry an energy that feels like it comes from another world, something beyond what they know or understand, and that unsettles them. Humans fear what they can't categorize, and you defy every category. You're not just a person, you're a presence. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts. Conversations pause, eyes linger, and tension thickens. Not because of anything you say, but because of who you are. Your energy speaks before you do. It whispers of resilience, battles fought, and wisdom earned in silence. It tells a story they can't read, a truth they can't touch. They sense your depth, but can't place its origin, and that mystery unnerves them. Most people depend on labels and assumptions. They use them like maps to navigate the social world. But you break the map. You don't follow their predictable patterns, and you don't fit into their tidy definitions. You're an enigma, a question they can't answer. They try to dismiss you, explain you away, or force you into a box, but nothing sticks. You're not performing, not chasing approval, not seeking validation. You just are. And that level of self-assurance makes them uncomfortable because they don't have it. Your presence reminds them of their own untapped potential, their forgotten dreams, the parts of themselves they've buried to fit in. You reflect their limits, without trying. You are the unknown, the mystery they can't solve, the mirror they can't avoid. And in a world obsessed with control, nothing is scarier than what they can't define or contain. Number 8. The solitude they fear, the strength you gain. For most people, solitude is a curse. It stirs up their deepest insecurities, awakens the fear of being forgotten, and fuels their endless craving for validation from the outside world. Being alone feels like punishment, a slow unraveling of the self. But not for you. Solitude isn't a threat. It's your sanctuary. While they see being alone as emptiness, you see potential. You step into solitude the way warriors enter a training ground, ready to sharpen your mind, reclaim your energy, and emerge stronger than ever. And that terrifies them. Their attempts to push you into solitude through rejection, exclusion, or abandonment backfire spectacularly. They expect you to weaken, to break, to come crawling back, desperate for attention or acceptance. But instead, you disappear into stillness and return unshakable. You thrive where they wither. In the quiet, you shed the world's noise, its petty dramas and hollow expectations. Solitude becomes a forge, reshaping you through clarity and inner alignment. You don't crumble, you rebuild, renew, and rise. Their worst fear: watching you emerge from solitude stronger, calmer, and more powerful than before. Every time they expect you to fall, you ascend. Every time they try to diminish you, you expand. What unsettles them most is that you don't need them. They depend on constant validation, approval, and connection just to feel alive. But you've found strength in the one place they fear most, within yourself. They can't grasp how you do it, how you walk away from the crowd and return unbreakable, how the very thing meant to destroy you only amplifies your power. In the end, your ability to thrive in solitude reveals a truth they can't face. Real power doesn't come from others. It comes from self-mastery, and that's something they will never control. Number 9. Their plans can't touch you. When they plot against you, they move with arrogant confidence, convinced that their schemes will play out perfectly. They set traps, spread lies, and work tirelessly behind the scenes, certain that this time they'll succeed. But every time, without fail, their plans backfire. The traps they set snap shut on themselves. The lies they craft expose their own deception. The harm they wish upon you boomerangs back, leaving them stunned, frustrated, and increasingly afraid. It's not just the failure of their schemes that terrifies them, it's the why. They can't understand how their plans keep collapsing. To them, it feels like you're protected by something unseen. A force that not only shields you, but turns their attacks into their own downfall. It's a mystery they can't solve, and that unknown makes you untouchable in their eyes. But it's not luck or coincidence. The truth is, you carry something they don't understand: integrity, clarity, and unwavering purpose. While they move with envy, fear, and malice, you move with authenticity and energy like that cannot be manipulated. It creates a natural barrier they can't penetrate. Their darkness can't thrive in your light. What terrifies them most is that you never fight dirty. You don't retaliate. You don't engage in their twisted games. And yet, they still lose. Every scheme, every trap, every attempt crumbles under its own negativity. Their power is fragile because it's built on deceit and control, foundations that collapse under the weight of truth and integrity. Their real fear isn't you. It's what you represent, a living reminder that darkness will never conquer light. Their failures aren't just defeats. They're lessons they can't escape, and you never had to lift a finger. Number 10. The truth they can't hide. Manipulators wear deception like a second skin. Lies, half-truths, fake charm. They craft illusions designed to control, mislead, and gain power. They've spent years perfecting their act, fooling most people with ease, but not you. The moment they speak, you see through them like glass. Their words may be polished, their stories rehearsed, but you don't buy the performance. You don't need to guess, assume, or overthink. You just know. Your awareness cuts deeper than instinct. It's forged through experience, observation, and relentless self-honesty. You've studied human behavior, not by choice, but by survival. Manipulation is a language you understand, but refuse to speak. So when they twist truths or hide behind false personas, you catch it instantly. You spot the cracks in their carefully built facade before they even realize they've slipped. And that terrifies them. Manipulators thrive on secrecy, thriving only when they can stay in the shadows. You are the disruption they can't control. Your ability to see them clearly exposes their most feared vulnerability, being known for who they really are. Here's what scares them the most. You don't need to confront them. You don't argue, accuse, or play their game. You let them drown in their own deception while standing unshaken, unfazed, and untouchable. They can't manipulate someone they can't fool. Their tactics fall flat because you aren't susceptible to their charm or lies. They become powerless the second you see them for what they are. You don't just see through them, you see beyond them. You see the truth they've buried under layers of deceit, the fragile, desperate need for control that keeps them trapped in their own web. You are their worst nightmare, a soul they can't deceive, and a mirror they can't escape. Number 11. The confidence they can't touch, unshaken, unbreakable. You carry a quiet, undeniable strength, one that doesn't come from titles, achievements, or the approval of others. It radiates from something far deeper, a place untouched by ego or external validation. You don't need to prove your worth. You simply are, and that terrifies them. Your confidence feels almost superhuman because it comes from within. It's not performative. You're not chasing applause or demanding recognition. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. Your presence speaks louder than words ever could. When chaos hits, while others panic, lash out, or crumble under pressure, you remain steady. It's not that you're emotionless, it's that you've learned to master your emotions rather than be mastered by them. You move with intention, not reaction. They can't figure you out. They expect confidence to come from wealth, status, or dominance, things they can measure or manipulate. But your power comes from alignment with your truth, your values, and your purpose, and that makes you untouchable. They try to shake you through criticism, envy, or manipulation, but you don't flinch. They expect anger. defensiveness, or insecurity, but you remain calm, grounded, and sure. It unnerves them. They don't understand how someone can be so unbothered, so free from fear. They can't replicate what you have because it can't be faked. It's not about arrogance or bravado. It's about knowing exactly who you are. And here's the real reason they're scared. Your confidence forces them to question their own weaknesses. It shows them what's possible when you don't depend on others for power. You are what they can't imitate. Calm in the storm, power without force, presence without pretense. They can't match it because they'll never understand it. Number 12. The moves they fear, the risks you embrace. While most people cling to comfort like a lifeline, you move boldly into the unknown. You take risks they wouldn't dare consider, and you do it with unshakable trust in yourself and your purpose. There's no hesitation, no second-guessing. Just an inner knowing that whatever path you choose will lead you exactly where you're meant to be. And that terrifies them. For them, comfort is an addiction, a safe zone where approval, validation, and the avoidance of failure define every decision. But you're not bound by those limitations. You've learned that real growth happens when you abandon the familiar, face the uncertain, and trust your inner compass. They watch you take leaps they wouldn't dare attempt and succeed, and it forces them to confront a brutal truth. They are paralyzed by their own fear. Their lives are a balancing act of caution and control, while you move freely, fiercely, and without apology. It's not just the risks you take, it's the results you create. Your success is more than luck or chance. It's living proof of what happens when you trust yourself completely. You step outside the lines they're too scared to cross, and that sharp contrast is a mirror they can't ignore. You force them to question their excuses. Why are they still stuck? Why do they play small while you rise higher? Your courage highlights their cowardice, showing them that the only thing holding them back is themselves. But facing that reality is more terrifying than any risk. It means admitting they've been their own captors all along. Your fearless moves expose the life they could have, if only they were brave enough to claim it. In a world ruled by fear, manipulation, and insecurity, you are the exception, a living, breathing reminder of what it means to be aligned with your true self. You don't follow the rules they've created to control others. Instead, you walk with unwavering confidence, unshakable strength, and a spiritual connection so profound that nothing can distort it. And that terrifies them. Your energy disrupts their carefully constructed illusions. Your presence exposes their weaknesses. Every fearless move you make challenges their deepest insecurities. But here's the truth. You're not trying to scare them. You're simply being you, authentic, unapologetic, and true to who you are. In a world full of people hiding behind masks and playing small, that alone is revolutionary. Your existence forces them to face the parts of themselves they've buried, their untapped potential, their vulnerabilities, the power they could wield if only they had the courage to confront their fears. But rather than rise to the challenge, they project their discomfort onto you. They lash out, criticize, or try to dim your light, not because of who you are, but because of what you represent, everything they're too afraid to be. So keep moving forward. Keep shining your light, even when they try to extinguish it. Keep taking fearless steps that leave them questioning their limitations, because the only thing they fear more than you is the truth that you refuse to settle for less than extraordinary. If this resonates with you, it's time to fully embrace your power. Subscribe to this channel and join a community of fearless souls who refuse to conform, who rise above, and who live aligned with their highest purpose. We're here to shatter illusions, empower each other, and remind the world what authenticity truly looks like.